Good afternoon, students. So in this video, we're going to go over different kinds of body paragraphs. Now, I've gone over this in a previous video, but part of teaching is sometimes that the more is to be redundant, and some students might understand the different kinds of paragraphs from my previous video, while other students prefer it in this format. So I always teach different modalities sometimes for different students who learn differently, even if I'm using the same subject. So in this video, we're going to go over different kinds of body paragraphs. And the body paragraphs are the middle paragraphs in your paper where you are describing, illustrating, or justifying your main idea. Because whenever you write an essay, you have an introduction, you have 3 body paragraphs, and you have a conclusion paragraph. And in order to have an effective essay structure, you need to have an effective paragraph structure. So we're going to go over not only the different kinds of paragraphs, but we're going to go over paragraph structure, which is like the building blocks of your essay. It's just like a house. If you don't have a good foundation to your house will fall apart. If you don't have if the foundation of your essay is the paragraph structure, and you don't have good paragraph structure, then your essay won't make sense. So in that way, that's kind of like your house falling on top of you. So what's the point of writing something if your reader comes away with, what was that? So let's go over different kinds of ways in which you can illustrate your thesis statement, different kinds of paragraphs, as well as paragraph structure. So that's going to be the topic for today's video. So here, and let me share it. And once again, it's from the Diana Hacker book. So that's what all of these videos are coming from. So building effective paragraphs. A paragraph is a group of sentences that focuses on one main point. Except for special purpose paragraphs, such as introduction and conclusions, body paragraphs function to support an essay's main idea or thesis. Aim for paragraphs that are well developed, organized, coherent, and neither too long or too short for easy reading. So I tell students that each paragraph should have about 5 to 7 sentences. That's the guideline that they give you in the classroom. Note that there's no ideal length for a paragraph, but your instructor may have specific guidelines. So let's get into what is a paragraph. Basically, a paragraph is 5 to 7 sentences that focuses on one main idea from your thesis statement. So a paragraph should be unified around a main point. The point should be clear to readers, and all the sentences in the paragraph should relate to it. And so the 3 parts of your paragraph is the topic sentence, the supporting sentences, and then a concluding sentence. And so the topic sentence is the main idea from your thesis. And then the topic sentence and all the supporting sentences need to be talking about the topic sentence. And then you have a concluding sentence. So that is good paragraph structure. So that's what each body paragraph will have. And obviously, I did too many pages. Okay, so let's go back to page 49, and hopefully I won't have to go through all of this. It's not like a real book, is it? So, stating the main point in a topic sentence. So as readers move into a paragraph, they need to know where they are in relation to the whole essay and what to expect in the sentences to come. A good topic sentence that's a 1-sentence summary of the paragraph's main point acts as a signpost, pointing in 2 directions. Backward toward the thesis. Like I said, every body paragraph has to relate back to the thesis of the essay, and forward toward the body of the paragraph. So like the thesis statement, a topic sentence is more general than the material supporting it. So here you have all living creatures manage some form of communication. So this is the topic sentence. So the very first sentence means that the rest of the paragraph is going to be about all living creatures manage some form of communication. So you write the big idea, your main idea first, and then the rest of the supporting sentences will describe how living creatures form some form of communications, so that your supporting sentences will then describe, justify, or illustrate your topic sentence. So the dance patterns of bees in their hive help to point the way to distant flower fields or announce successful foraging. Male stickleback fish regularly swim upside down to indicate outrage in a courtship contest. Male deer and lemurs mark territorial ownership by rubbing their own body secretions on boundary stones or trees. Everyone has seen a frightened dog put his tail between his legs and run in panic. We too use gestures, expressions, postures, and movement to give our words point. So in college writing, topic sentences are often necessary for advancing or clarifying lines of an argument and introducing evidence from a source. So in the following paragraph on the effects of the 2010 oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, the writer uses a topic sentence, that's the highlighted sentence, to state that the extent of the threat is unknown before quoting 3 sources to illustrate the point. So to date, the full ramifications of the oil spill remain a question mark. An August report from the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration estimated that 75% of the oil has evaporated or even burned from the water. However, Woodhull's Oceanic Institution researchers reported that a 1.2 mile wide, 650 foot high plume caused by the spill had and will persist for some time. And University of Georgia students concluded that almost 80% of the oil released hasn't been recovered and remains a threat to the ecosystem. So occasionally, the topic sentence may be withheld until the end of the paragraph, but we're not going to be doing that in this class. In this class, we stick to the topic sentence, supporting sentence, concluding sentence. And it is true that in some writing, and this will come in later, you will learn different ways in which the topic sentence can come in different parts, but that goes beyond this class. So that's the different kinds of that's the different parts of a paragraph. Now we're going to talk about the different kinds of paragraphs. So one kind of paragraph simply gives examples. So the most common kind of body paragraph is called the example and illustration body paragraph. So examples, perhaps the most common pattern of development, are appropriate whenever the reader might be tempted to ask, for example. So then you have the topic sentence, and then the supporting sentences will give examples of that topic sentence. So here you would say, normally my parents abided scrupulously by the budget, but several times a year, Dad would dip into his battered black strongbox and splurge on some irrational, totally satisfying luxury. Now he's going to give an example of how, from time to time, his father would spend a lot of money. Once, my father bought over 100 comic books at a flea market, doled out to us thereafter at the tantalizing rate of 2 a week. He always got a whole lot of a flat of pansies, my mother's favorite flower, for us to give her on Mother's Day. One day, a boy stopped at our house selling 50-cent raffle tickets on a sailboat, and Dad bought every ticket the boy had left, 3 books worth. So illustrations are extended examples, frequently presented in story form because they require several sentences apiece. They are used more sparingly than examples. When well selected, they can be a vivid and effective means of developing a point. The writer of the following paragraph uses illustrations to demonstrate that Harriet Tubman, the Underground Railroad most famous conductor, was a genius at eluding pursuers. So part of Harriet Tubman's strategy of conducting was, as in all battlefield operations, the knowledge of how and when to retreat. Numerous allusions have been made to her moves when she suspected that she was in danger. When she feared the party was closely pursued, she would take it for a time on a train and southward bound. No one seeing the Negroes going in this direction would for an instant suppose them to be fugitives. Once on her return, she was at a railroad station. She saw some men reading a poster, and she heard one of them reading it out loud. It was a description of her, offering a reward for her capture. So she took a southbound train to avert suspicion. At another time, when Harriet heard men talking about her, she pretended to read a book which she carried. One man remarked, "That can't be the woman. The one we want can't read or write." Harriet devoutly hoped the book was right side up. So that's Harriet Tubman, illustration of how she was so smart to elude her pursuers. Another kind of body paragraph is known as a narration body paragraph, where you tell a story. So narrative paragraphs are usually arranged in chronological order, but they may also contain flashbacks, interruptions that take the story back to an earlier time. The following paragraph recounts one of the author's experiences in the African wild. One evening, when I was wading in the shallows of the lake to pass a rocky outcrop, I suddenly stopped dead as I saw the sinuous black body of a snake in the water. It was all of 6 feet long, and from the slight hood and the dark stripes at the back of the neck, I knew it to be a Storm's water cobra, a deadly reptile, for the bite of which there was no serum. So as I stared at it, I became motionless, not even breathing. Then I leaped out of the water as fast as I could, my heart hammering. Okay, so that's a narration, body paragraph. Description. A descriptive paragraph sketches a person or place or thing by using concrete and specific details that appeal to one or more of our senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Consider, for example, the following description of the grasshopper invasions that devastated the Midwestern landscape in the 1860s. They came like dive bombers out of the West. They came by the millions, with the rustle of their wings roaring overhead. They came in waves, like the rolls of the sea, descending with a terrifying speed, breaking now and again like a mighty surf. They came with the force of a willow-wow, and they formed a huge, ominous dark brown cloud that eclipsed the sun. They dipped and touched earth, hitting objects and people like hailstones. But they were not hail. These were live demons. They popped, snapped, crackled, and roared. They were dark brown, an inch or longer in length, plump in the middle, tapered at the ends. They had transparent wings, slender legs, and 2 black eyes that flashed with a fierce intelligence. So that is description paragraph. A process paragraph is when you tell someone step by step how to do something. So here is a paragraph explaining how to perform a roll cast. Begin by taking a suitable stance with one foot slightly in front of the other and the rod pointing down the line. Then begin a smooth, steady draw, raising your rod hand to just above shoulder length and lifting the rod to the 10:30 or 11:30 position. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically it teaches someone how to go fishing. Comparison contrast. To compare and contrast 2 subjects is to draw attention to their similarities. Although the word compare also has a broader meaning that includes a consideration of differences, to contrast is to focus only on differences. So whether a paragraph stresses similarities or differences, it may be patterned in one of 2 ways. The 2 subjects may be presented one at a time, as in the following paragraph, or a paragraph may proceed point by point, treating the 2 subjects together, one aspect at a time. So you can have comparison contrast paragraph, and you can, I'm not going to read the paragraph, but you could read this later on, in which you compare 2 things in order to prove your thesis statement. Analogy. Analogy draws comparisons between items that appear to have little in common. Writers turn to analogies for a variety of reasons: to make the unfamiliar seem familiar, and to provide a concrete understanding of an abstract topic. to argue a point or to provide or to provoke fresh thoughts or changed feelings about a subject. In the following paragraph, physician Lewis Thomas draws an analogy between the behavior of ants and that of humans. Okay, this one I will read. Ants are so much like human beings as to be an embarrassment. They farm fungi, raise aphids as livestock, launch armies into war, use chemical sprays to alarm and confuse enemies, capture slaves. The families of weaver ants engage in slave labor, child labor, holding their larvae like shuttles to spin out the thread that sew the leaves together for their gardens. And they exchange information ceaselessly, and they do everything but watch television. Although analogies can be a powerful tool for illuminating a subject, they should be used with caution in arguments. Just because two things may be alike in one respect, we cannot conclude they are all alike in all respects. So you got to make sure that whatever you compare has to be similar, and be similar enough, and not be comparing apples to oranges, because otherwise you end up with the false analogy fallacy. Cause and effect. So another kind of paragraph is cause and effect. So when causes and effect are a matter of argument, they are too complex to be reduced to a single pattern. However, if a writer wishes merely to describe a cause and effect relationship that is generally accepted, then the effect may be stated in the topic sentence and the causes listed in the body of the paragraph. So, the fantastic water clarity of the Mount Gambier sinkholes results from several factors. The holes are fed from aquifers holding rainwater that fell decades, even centuries ago, and that has been filtered through miles of limestone. The high level of calcium that limestone adds causes the silty detritus from dead plants and animals to cling together and settle quickly to the bottom. So here you have cause and effect, kind of a body paragraph. Classification and description. Classification is the grouping of items into categories according to some consistent principle. For example, an elementary school teacher might classify children's books according to their level of difficulty, but a librarian might group them by subject matter. The principle of classification that a writer chooses ultimately depends on the purpose of the classification. So whenever you put something into groups, that is known as a classification body paragraph. So here is a classification paragraph. Scientists sort electric fish into 3 categories. The first comprises the strongly electric species, like the marine electric rays or the freshwater African electric catfish and South American electric eel, known since the beginning of time. These deliver a strong enough punch to stun a human. In recent years, biologists have focused on a second category, weakly electric fish, and South American and African waters that use tiny voltages for communication and navigation. So when you have classification, it's used a lot in science to classify different groups. And then the last kind of paragraph that I'm going to cover for this video is a definition body paragraph. A definition body paragraph puts a word or concept into general class and then provides enough details to distinguish it from others in the same class. In other words, in a definition paragraph, you are defining something. So if you want to say, what is love? Love is sacrifice. Then that would be your topic sentence, and then you're going to write about love is sacrifice. It's like if you have a job, right, and you want to get promoted, and your boss thinks that you should be at the office 24/7, but you're going to sacrifice that promotion because you love your kid, and your kid has a recital, so you're going to leave the office early, forego the promotion so you could be at your kid's recital. So you are sacrificing the opportunity to have a job promotion in order, because you love your kid, you want to be there in that kid's cheerleading section to show the kid you care about his music and you care about him. So love is sacrifice. So that is a definition paragraph. So Envy is so, here's their example. Envy is so integral and so painful a part of what animates behavior in market societies that many people have forgotten the full meaning of the word, simplifying it into one of the synonyms of desire. It is that which may be why it flourishes in market societies, democracies of desire, they might be called, with money for ballots, stuffing permitted. But envy is more or less than desire. It begins with an almost frantic sense of emptiness within oneself, as if the pump of one's heart were sucking on air. One has to be blind to perceive the emptiness, of course, but that's just what emptiness is, a selective blindness. Invidia, Latin for envy, translates as non-sight, and Dante has the envious plodding along under cloaks of lead, their eyes sewn with leaden wire. What they are blind to is what they have, God-given and humanly nurtured in themselves. So envy is when you're so caught up in being jealous of your neighbor that you don't even get to see and be grateful for what you already have. So if all you care about is, oh look, my neighbor has a BMW, and my neighbor has a color TV, but the color TV is 3D. Oh, look at my house. All I've got is that dump of a TV set, and it's 30 years old. So you fail to see, you're so envious, you fail to see the gratefulness, be grateful for the blessings that you do have. And that's the definition of envy, is an inability to be grateful for what you have, you see. So anyway, that is a definition body paragraph. And so I will stop here. I'll keep this, I'll do this in another time. Make paragraphs coherent. In other words, all of your ideas. When you have a topic sentence, then everything in the middle of your supporting sentences need to talk about that topic sentence. And you can't just talk about 5 different ideas in one paragraph. Always focus on just that one idea. Always focus on just one idea per paragraph. So, and before, I always have to look for, it's one of the downsides of this program. Anyway, so if you have any questions about paragraph structure, feel free to email me anytime.